Hey, hey,
Welcome back, everyone, to another day with Estefania, aka NFTMami, and
JP Miller, the real JP Miller.
amazing. And we're so excited today because we have a special guest who's been a community for quite some time now, maybe not too long, but we're really excited to introduce him. His name is Nick Stanford, and JP
Definitely
can
crypto curious.
definitely, definitely in line. I forgot that's our name now. Crypto
We got
Curious.
to You got to sneak that in there. So yeah, welcome to the crypto curious. Yeah, Nick is really awesome. He's just like jumped into the community and is like both feet in all the way. He's my kind of guy. He's like all in. I love it. And he's been like active in the Discord, helping people out, asking questions of his own. I don't know how many times he's gone through the rock paper scissors tutorial, but clearly we need more tutorials for this man to go through. And now he's building his own games. He's building his own D apps with Reach. So I'm really excited to bring him on and talk to him about his journey and what he's up to.
So, with no further ado, let's bring on Nick.
Hey
Hello.
Nick,
Hey, hi guys. Thank you so much for that warm welcome.
absolutely. Thanks for
I
being here
feel
with
like
us.
we also didn't give you the proper introduction. So
Yeah,
I would love to hear from you a little bit about your background, who you
yeah.
are, and how you'd like to
Yeah,
present yourself to the world.
yeah, of course. Well, as you said, my name's Nick Stanford. I'm a software engineering major at Arizona State University, um, and a just general blockchain enthusiast. I actually went back to get my software engineering degree so that I could be a blockchain developer, and that was like the whole goal, like going back into it. So now I'm sort of at a part in my school, my studies, that I'm really trying to find that niche and really hammer down on that niche, because once you start going through these programs, they want to teach you every language in the book, right? They want to go from like low level assembly stuff, and they want to work their way up to the higher level stuff so that you can really appreciate everything that's going on underneath.
Yeah.
But to me, like the niche that is the Reach development platform, like that was it, right? You say I jumped in with both feet. It was so easy to, because someone who's like, clearly I just wanted to be a blockchain developer, right? Well, now here comes Reach. It's like, hey, we built this crazy awesome platform that allows you to be blockchain agnostic and like, have all these other features. And like, I went to Basecamp, was like, okay, these are my people. This is where my niche is. So for me, like, that's really how I got to where I am now, and why it is that I'm so excited about what Reach does, because it really does have the impact to be like the language of blockchains in the future. So yeah, that's really just my background and how I ended up here. I spent so much time with like the Algorand network and learning the background of all that it was an easy dive in like I said, when you guys kind of, here's Reach and here's what we do. I said, all right, well, I'm with these guys.
It's awesome. Well, we're glad you're with us. Well, we're with you. So is this your first degree that you're finishing, or do you already have a degree and you're working on a second degree?
I have an associate's degree that I finished when I was working at a younger age,
Okay.
but the time to kind of reinvent myself popped up, right before COVID. And I thought, well, here's a great chance to do what you actually want to do. So yeah, this is my first software engineering degree, but I do have an AS degree in general science and focus in computer science.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And so tell us about the journey of finding Reach and coming to the summit. So, I mean, you said that these are your people. What was it about the summit? Was there something, or like the whole experience? You want to share some about that?
Yeah, I mean, so it was. I've had an eye on what Reach has been doing. As from an Algorand background, like I heard what Reach was trying to do before it was even built.
Mhm.
So when it came time that, okay, now it's ready, I was just kind of reading through the docs and finding whatever information I could to get myself started. And I remember, I think it was like a tweet that the Reach Twitter sent out that was like, what are you working on today? And I said, well, some school studies, but like I have my other eye on the Reach docs, and I'm trying to learn the Reach docs. And I think it was Brandon. He responded and he says, well, why don't you come to this summit, this Basecamp event, and we'll teach you some about it, and we'll get you more involved. And I thought, wow, that doesn't sound like any better way for me to just fully immerse myself in it than, yeah, let's just go meet these people and see what this is all about. But further, like when I got there, it was the space and like everybody's mindset, right? Because there's so much speculation in blockchain and crypto, and that's like everybody's first introduction to it is speculation, right? All the speculative noise. But then when we got to Basecamp, it was totally different. I mean, I think I remember first Chris standing up there and just talking about what he believes the implications of blockchain are for the future. And like to hear it on such a high level and on such a philosophical approach for it, it was kind of like, okay, click. There goes all the speculation. This is what we're doing here. And it was so easy to like be in a group of these like-minded people who, you know, they weren't speculating. They were talking about how that we can create value, how we can build that value, and then how can we push it outwards to the world. So, you know, that's a long-winded way of saying that like it's a group of like-minded people who are innovating for the future. And that to me was like, it was so welcoming. Like everybody wanted to talk about everybody else's work. Everybody wanted to talk about how we innovate in the space, what's next, you know, and that to me was like the biggest attractor of all these like minds that just wanted to talk about innovation. And if you've come from like a speculative background where you read everything you can online and, you know, you're hanging out in subreddits and stuff, like it's maybe less okay to talk about with your quote regular friends, right? Like there's still some taboo around crypto with your regular friends. And then here comes this Basecamp event where we can all just talk about blockchain. We can talk about what we believe it can do for the future and how you're working towards that. And if you're not there yet, we want to help you get there. And that to me was just like, you know, I think I said it in a tweet somewhere. It was like, it just felt like a family who was like all together saying, okay, let's do this together. And for me, that was like the biggest attractor and why I felt so much part of the Reach team leaving there, even though, you know, I'm just attending and learning. You know, I felt it's like, man, these are my people, you know?
Yeah, sometimes crypto feels like Fight Club. Like the first rule of crypto is you don't talk about crypto.
Yeah, to other people, right? Like
Right.
you can talk about it to anonymous people online, but once you go out on a Friday night and start talking about it at the bar, people clear away from you real quick.
What I was going to mention too is it's interesting you say that because we've actually also brought up an idea, and I don't want to leak alpha because I don't even know if we'll actually do it, but I hope that we do. And is this idea of also inviting the brightest minds back to like those base camps and bringing all your problems to the table, and then from there sort of breaking them apart together to find innovation that way, right? Because currently everyone's trying to build and it seems like there's so many blockchains, there's so many different lanes people try to come into. So it'd be really cool for us to kind of gather and resolve issues if there are any, right? Like why are some chains not scalable while others are? Why are some centralized while others aren't? So I feel like, and I agree with you, I feel like this was definitely a space to have those conversations and get those answers that we normally wouldn't because some of the brightest minds, I believe like Jay and Chris are one of the brightest minds. So like having them there as resources is like just such a phenomenal thing to have in our back pocket at all times. But you also mentioned that you did this course with some members of the Algorand community in the past. Can you tell me a little bit about that? It's like this bridge to Algorand.
Oh, the gateway to Algorand, it's called. Yeah. So it's put on by a group called Blockbeam. And what they do is they focus on business side applications, sustainability applications, right? So right now it's primarily open to university students. But what they do is they onboard these university students. They teach them the basics of blockchain, specifically the Algorand blockchain. And then we examine environmentally sustainable startup and use case ideas that are built on the Algorand blockchain. And the idea is to take these, non-tech savvy or non-blockchain people from their finance backgrounds or their business backgrounds, and then highlight where are the actual benefits of blockchain technology. And then throughout the course, we curate business ideas, original startup ideas, or you can kind of pitch a current existing one to a new market. But we curate these ideas over the course of 6 weeks that are built on blockchain. And the idea is to just, like I said, sort of educate on how we can push this technology outward and start to actually have an impact on, maybe the non-crypto people, right? Because there is so much momentum for all of us who believe in this, but then there's a whole nother subset of people who don't know why it's beneficial, or how could, if I'm running a business, how could I implement blockchain to make it a better business, or to make it more cost efficient or better for my users. So what Blockbeam does is basically it helps to curate these students into sort of a blockchain business mind. And then at the end of the program, you pitch those original ideas to a judging panel of VCs and representatives from the Algorand Foundation, and you have a chance to sort of go, from zero to hero, right? Like, I didn't know anything about blockchain when I started. Now I'm pitching this blockchain idea to this room of VCs and actual people who could fund that idea.
Awesome.
So yeah, after the first group, we had one group that's going to go on and continue to explore their idea and see if they can, keep growing it and secure some funding. But otherwise, we're onboarding more students for Gateway to Algorand 2.0 right now.
Cool.
And the amount of people that are interested is it's voluminous. I mean, there's so many people who just want information, and it goes back to your point, Steph, about there's so much information out there. Where do you get good information? Right? Okay, so-and-so on Twitter said this, or this subreddit says this, but how much can you verify that? Is that real information? So what Blockbeam aims to do is be that educational voice for young entrepreneurs to incorporate blockchain and expand blockchain use cases as it relates to environmental sustainability.
It's really cool. I like the emphasis. The people at Blockbeam are really great too. I had the opportunity to meet them. They came to the summit. And so, yeah, it's really great. I'm looking forward to working with them further and more closer relationship with them too. So,
yeah, they have great vision. I mean, they started this whole thing. They're both still university students themselves. And to have that vision, here's what we need. And I say it all the time. Anybody who's met me and talked to me privately, education is the number one thing we need in this space.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of other things that the technology has a long ways to go, but until we can fully educate people and really get the right information in the hands of people, we're always going to have this where do I get my information from? Well, now you have this group who will curate all the right information and then push that outwards to enthusiastic and energetic young entrepreneurs who want to move that forward. But just to go back to the creators, I was so impressed personally with their vision that I had to be involved in the first group, and they've since hired me on to be the coordinator for the second group, where I get to actually deliver the content to the students. And I'm really excited about that. I mean, I love talking about Algorand. I love educating on blockchain. It's one of my newfound passions. Maybe 10 years ago, I never would have said, oh, I'm going to be an educator. But if you find something you're passionate about, it's so easy to talk about. And then on the other side of that coin are a lot of people who are passionate to learn, and that's what I find with people in Reach too, is everybody just wants to learn so badly that they're committed. They ask tons of questions. And it's just so easy to work with people like that. So it's been an awesome ride with the Blockbeam group, and they really are expanding fast. The amount of entrepreneurs and people they can bring into the student club to talk to people, I'm flabbergasted, right? I had to ask him the other day, it's how many people do you know? And he says, what do you mean? I said, well, you just keep pulling business people out of your pocket. I don't have that many business people in my pocket.
Yeah, you just got to talk to people, right?
Yeah.
The
really,
space is electric.
Yeah.
The key about education is so critical. I mean, I had a Web2 company in 2015, and the amount of education that I needed to do with small business owners about Web2 things was that was probably 80% of the job was education. And that was Web2. in 2015 that's had been mainstream for, we could argue, like 15 years, right? And so now we're taking this new layer, Web3, and so education is all the more important, especially with the idea of self-governance and the autonomy and non-custodianship, right? Where you hold your own keys, you are your own player, you are your own participant, and you're your own governor. Like these are ideas that are kind of foreign to a lot of people, and I think if we can help them catch them, then it not only revolutionizes the way that we interact with technology, but it revolutionizes the way that we interact with one another in our communities IRL.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah.
It's interesting you brought that up. It just made me think about how people are so sort of sketched out, developed FUD around what's currently happening because people don't understand the concept of self-sovereignty and actually taking true ownership over their own like assets. So it's like sort of sad for people who don't get it, but it's also really enlightening because it's like, wow, we've been sort of like in this living in this like illusion of what it is to be true owners of our assets for so long that like when the actual decentralization part of it comes into play, like we almost don't know what to do. And we're waiting for someone to tell us how to do it and like how to go through it. And like the point is like, no one can tell you because it's yours. So that's really curious to me. But back to you, Nick. So in your journey, it seems like you've kind of just fallen into the Algorand ecosystem, but have you been exploring other blockchains? And if so, like which ones? And if not, like why Algorand?
Yeah, so I am a total Algorand maxi. I have literally never used another blockchain. I have to maybe like jump back on that a little bit. I have Bitcoin. I use the Bitcoin network as little as possible, and then I've used the Ethereum network. But both of those instances were actually to like onboard those assets into the Algorand network. And really, for me, it was sort of that same thing. Like when you start to look into blockchain and crypto, there's so much information. The first thing you do is like download Coinbase, right? And you look at all the coins on Coinbase, and your head starts spinning. Like, what are all these for? You have no idea, right? And each one, each blockchain is good at different things. So, I really was like, I have to pick something here. Like I can't know everything about everything, right? So I started just kind of doing like I would try to read a white paper a day, and just like the general section that's an overview of what this blockchain does, what its consensus mechanism is, and what kind of impact it can have. But I get through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 of those, and I end up at the Algorand network. And what struck me most about it was the professionalism. There's so much, again, speculative noise around most of these other assets. And I always like the approach that the Algorand network took is, okay, we're going to build this groundbreaking tech from the ground up, because they easily could have, built EVM compatible and done it sort of a different way that was more popular to the masses, but then that has its own issues, right? So when I got into, I really started reading everything about Algorand, and the professionalism is what really kept me there. They were so focused on building usable, expandable tech, and not like throwing up this flag about it and screaming, buy our token, buy our token, buy our token. And then when I start looking into the background of the team, and you see people like Silvio and some of the background that he's got, where he is the grandfather of cryptography, right? Like he created a lot of the zero knowledge proofs and things that these other blockchains are using to scale theirs. So to me, it was like, okay, this is kind of a dark horse bet because they are so far behind. They're a Gen 3 blockchain, right? Like there were iterations before them, and if you're talking about percentage of users, it's very small. But when you look at the actual tech and how it can scale, and the transaction fees and all of that considered, this can actually be used on a global scale, was my thought, right? Like, when you start talking about scalability issues on Ethereum, and the more congestion the network sees, the tougher it is, and fees go up. And, to me, like that's just it's not usable, right? Because we want the more users that come on, we want it to be the same experience across the board. We want it to be fast. We want it to be cheap. So when I kind of got all the way through the Algorand white paper and understood, maybe 60% of it, I knew I knew in my head, I was like, okay, this is a tech that can scale and can be used globally for all the things that they're saying this blockchain can be good for.
Something went wrong. Try again in a few seconds.
It's my Google must be hearing me in the room going off. But that's sort of where I set in stone, like, okay, this is my network. And from there, it was just, how far down do you want to go? Because there's another rabbit hole that starts there, It
sounds like you're going down them. So in one of our recent conversations, Steph and I were talking about how going degen and getting into blockchain has changed our thought process, the way we like perceive the world and like how we perceive stories. And I wonder if you can like share some of ways that, since you've got into Algorand and blockchain, different ways that you think about the world now, and different ways that you approach maybe programming, or you approach like things that you once thought were concrete in your life or in society, and how that has changed for you.
Yeah, I mean, the number one thing I do is I look at potential. Like, I'm looking for potential. And a lot of creators will talk about this, but disruptive markets, where can this technology be the most disruptive? And that's what like goes through my head everywhere I go now. And I think I was like at an ATM the other day, and I'm like getting a $5 ATM fee, and in my head, I'm like, okay, how can we disrupt this? Obviously, crypto to fiat is an issue, the ramp there, right? But someday it's not going to be an issue. And in my head, I'm going, okay, how could we possibly implement that? And okay, well, maybe now it takes all your different wallets. It's got near field communication, boom, and your money comes out and there is no fee, or it's the blockchain native fee. And again, on Algorand, I don't even consider it. It's not a real thing to talk about. You waste more time talking about it than you do money spent on it. So to me, that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at disruption. Where could this possibly be disruptive? But from a programming aspect, a lot of it is about abstraction at this level, and knowing the Reach language well, JP, you'll know what I mean. But from a traditional programming background, you have a lot more freedom to act however you like inside your program and get it to do the things you want. But when you start working on programming at a blockchain level, there are a lot of restrictions, and especially in the Reach language. And this is on purpose, because it helps to create safe and secure programs. But from a programming aspect, I think that sort of has shifted for me. And now not only are we looking for the most efficient way to solve the problem, we're also looking for the safest way to secure the information. And I remember like the first kind of interaction with Reach, that I tried to create a variable. And like in regular programming, it's the most normal thing in the world.
Right.
But then I created this second variable in the Reach program, and it starts spitting out all these errors. Go see this website. You can't do this. You can't do that. And it was just like, holy cow, this is the total shift from what we understand about Web 2 programming and traditional backend programming to now blockchain programming, where you can't do that. Because why? Well, because it's a security issue. If there's a variable allowed inside of these steps, somebody could change that variable without the permission of the other person. So that's where we're only allowed constants, or very strict usage of variables. So that's where the shift in mind has been maybe the most kind of jarring. It's like, okay, well, now I have to think about how to create this program only with constants and with one object variable at the end that can only be touched in certain areas of the program, right? Like for me, that's been kind of the biggest shift from traditional programming into Web3.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I just want to make sure that I understand. So I'm going to back brief what you just said. And if not, correct me. Because again, I'm not a builder, but I think I know what you're saying. I'm not sure. So from what it sounds like is like in Web 2 development, you're able to sort of just like map out, architect your idea, what you're going to push out, right? Create a back end, a front end, and then you have the application ready, having variables depending on like who's interacting with it and how the UX is essentially working for the individual who's clicking around, right? Whereas like when you build a blockchain application, you are considering participants and you're considering a consensus. So having like a variable of like, say like another participant doesn't make sense because that's not how the blockchain works. And you're thinking about like the interaction of each block actually being created and what's happening as someone's maybe like transacting or interacting with a smart contract. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, you got it pretty well. You know, a lot of it is just that variable, when we declare it, that can be changed in and out of programs. However, we don't want that based on the steps that you just described. Because if I in my local step say, okay, I have this variable and it's 2, and then I publish that variable, well, now it's coded in such a way that it can be changed to 3. But I didn't change it to 3, somebody else changed it to 3. And that's what we're protecting against, because you don't have that trusted party or that third party intermediary that we talk about obscuring away with blockchain. Blockchain cuts out that intermediary. Well, now you have to factor into your code that there is no intermediary, and we need to trust each and every action that each of our participants makes. So if you need to update a value, it needs to be a different value, or it needs to have such tight restrictions on it that it can only be updated in certain places where we know it's okay to be updated here, and we know it's okay to be updated here. And in the reach programs, I'm pretty sure it's just before the end of the loop, right? Because if you're looping over an action that allows you to update that variable, it can only be updated right before the end of the loop. And that way, the consensus network, it's written to the consensus network right away, published, boom, here it is. And now it cannot be changed by either party, right? So yeah, that's what we're dealing with when we switch into Web3, right? It's like there's not that trusted third-party intermediary. So when we build out our applications, we have to factor that in. And JP talks about it a lot in the boot camp, but it's about the different steps. Your local or your private step, you interacting with the contract on this side, and then you push it out into the consensus network or the blockchain network where it verifies that information, and then your program steps into the next part of your program. And in software engineering, they're considered state diagrams. Each part of your program has a certain state. Inside this state, we expect this to be this, we expect this to be that, and we can determine values inside each state. So what we say when we mean step is to move from one state of your program into another state of your program, right? But that's a little bit higher level for the software engineering side. But those are the things that we really have to protect against, and that Reach does a great job of. I love to get those error messages though, because I know that Jay is behind the scenes like, okay, if somebody does this and he's hammering out that error message, but it's for those protective sort of variables and those protected data pieces that make it safe to use and safe to completely safe to deploy Reach programs, because they've all been checked already. And in other blockchain languages, that's not necessarily true.
Those error messages in Reach are pretty great. They're very helpful.
They're awesome. I want to hammer down on it because I learned so much from the compiler. I like to say that I enjoy fighting the compiler. Right? Like, it can be frustrating at first, like, oh, my program didn't work. But especially in Reach, I found that the call stacks are very traceable. At first, if you're a beginner, that like it outputs 15 lines of garbage for you, right? And you're looking at it, what is this? But if you can kind of look through, okay, well, those aren't important. And then the Reach program says, okay, at .rsh line number 179, you said this, and you can't say that. You need this. And it'll tell you right there, here's how you fix it. And if it's not, then it links to an error code that jumps to the Reach docs, and there's 60, 70 error codes on there that's like, hey, you passed in an argument here where the function does not expect an argument. And if you have just like a base level understanding of software, you can immediately say, oh, okay, well, where's the argument for that function? Take it out. Or go where we declare the argument for that function and say this needs to be in there. So I love fighting the compiler, and I'll spend all day doing it, because you break it a little less each time is my goal, right? Like, it's broken fully the first time, and then we got to the next error. We fixed that first one. What's this one? You know, and the more you fight the compiler, the more you understand what it wants from your programs. And I mean, the compiler is who you have to comply with in the first place, right? That's who you need to make happy first. So to me, the more I can understand exactly what the compiler wants, the easier it is for me to implement that in my programs. And then when I go back and write it a second time, I already know when I'm writing that line of code, ooh, the compiler really knows that I need to do this. So I put that into my code before it can yell at me the second time. And then your goal is, right, to break it less and continue breaking it less. So yeah, I love fighting the compiler, and the reach error messages have done such a great job of just teaching me what it needs to see in your program. I absolutely love it.
That's great. There's something that you said a little bit ago that I want to take issue up with you on. And you mentioned that there's not a trusted third-party intermediary in blockchain. And that's true, but I take issue with your word of trusted, which I think we've seen in Web 2 is that these trusted intermediaries are not all that trusted, right? And this is an argument. Well, there's no trusted intermediary. What are you going to do when you don't have the central? Well, these central authorities have shown themselves to be quite untrustful, right? And it's almost a call for to remove custodianship from these large companies and put it back in the hands of the people.
Yeah, I have to completely agree with you. I mean, you know, trusted is loosely held, right? But that is the benefit of blockchain, right? Is now we don't need an intermediary at all. We trust each other, and that's enough.
No, you don't even trust each other.
We don't even need to trust each other because there are functions underneath everything going on where it's become a trustless network. So we're able to anonymously interact because everything in the logic of the program is already saying that, like, your wallet, my wallet interacting, this is what happens. There's no if or buts about it. Like, it just is.
Yeah, right.
It is interesting though, by focusing on a system of trustlessness that we're able to create trust through the algorithms.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of like contradictory, right?
Yeah, that's funny.
Well, Nick, I have more questions for you. One of them being, we just aped into Flemish Giants together. I think that was a pretty awesome.
That's exciting.
But as you degen within the Algorand ecosystem, what sort of things have you found recently? Do you have any alpha to share with us?
Alpha. Ooh, I'm not sure I'm that close on the inside to be dropping any alpha for you. I do have some interesting stuff in the works that I can't really talk about right now, which is great to say because that means there could be some alpha in the near future. But no, I mean, at this point, like I've been involved in the Algorand ecosystem for almost 2 years now, and there was not anything built on it when I got here. We didn't have any DEXs. We didn't have AlgoFi. We didn't have any NFT projects whatsoever. There was nothing. So for me, you know, from my background, I love to watch the thing grow and to see how quickly we went from 0 DEXs to 4 or 5, and now it's now you're in the competition phase. But then further to see things expand, like, you know, the AlgoFi vault has been one of the, you know, not just AlgoFi, but a lot of people are doing this. Guard and Exa Finance, I think, or Folks Finance does it. But to kind of see the pain points of users where governance was kind of a big deal. It was like, hey, commit your algos to governance, right? And you put them all into governance. Well, now here's 3 billion algos that are locked somewhere and unusable. And that took 1 governance period, maybe 2, for all these people to start spinning up these solutions for this. That was like, okay, well, we have a stable coin. Well, we'll loan you stable coin based on your governance commitment, or the AlgoFi vault. It's a very similar thing where we'll deposit all of it into the vault for you, and then you can borrow against that as collateral. So, you know, it's been a great sort of experience to be here so early when it was so quiet, and it was just like a subreddit of, you know, algo freaks that are like, you know, hey, we love the tech, we're here for the tech, and then there's nothing here that we can do though. And we are kind of like we would just sit around and like, okay, someday we'll have cool stuff to do. But now to like watch all these projects blow up and to start see like, especially some of these NFT projects that have gone from like, okay, here's V1 and now the floor's 10,000 algos. It's like, wow, like this is really starting to gain some traction, and we're gaining a lot of users based on these things. And I've seen so many people who just like come over to the network because of this particular collection, or they come from Ethereum and want to check out this collection and like, wow, what do you mean it's so fast? And what does it cost? What is gas? And again, we just don't talk about gas here, So yeah, that's been the coolest part, I think, in terms of my Algorand background. I hope to have, some alpha to drop on you maybe in the next 4 or 5 weeks, but that's about the most I can say.
I'll have to have you back.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're building something.
Maybe.
Which leads me to my next question. So it seems like you've really been training yourself to be a builder in this space and provide a lot of value, whether it be education. I mean, you've started to create an FAQ for us, which is pretty awesome. I love how above and beyond you are in not just like the Algorand ecosystem as a whole, but like as you've joined our ecosystem within Reach, it's been like invaluable to just like watch your progress and also read like your articles as you publish them. So 1, thank you. 2, I'm curious, what are you going to do with all that knowledge?
That's a great question. I mean, it sort of started as I'd love to be involved in this program. Like I said, I had all this momentum coming out of the Basecamp meeting, and then we started getting into the material. And like, I'm someone who's very active on Discord. I study all day from my desk. I do all of my work here at my desk. So my Discord is just open all the time, right? And I just started to notice like a lot of the same questions kind of pop up, and I was like, all right, I can handle this one. Or like I would just scroll up in the Discord and see, Jay had answered that message up there a little bit, or JP had answered that message. Let me just grab it and throw it back in here, right? But a lot of it for me is about understanding. Like I'm not somebody who does well with like it just clicks. A lot of people can read things and they understand them the first time through. That is not the way that I learn. I have to go through it 2 and 3 and 4 times, and then I have to take stuff out and figure out why it doesn't work now that it's broke. But really, it all started as like, hey, I just want to know everything about this platform. I want to know everything that Reach does. I want to know where its strengths are. What are the next improvements coming to it, and that's really where it started for me. When it comes to terms of what I'd love to get out of it, like, I don't know what that looks like yet. I just, I truly believe that if I can cement myself as someone with a firm understanding of Reach, like I really do believe that Reach has the power to change blockchain development totally for everyone. So for me, it's about opportunity, and I see this opportunity that, Reach is in a place where they need people who are excited about Reach. You have such a tight knit family group that's growing fast, but like when you start to push that product outwards, like you need equally as many people who are excited to learn it and then talk about learning it, right? And I think for me, the more I go through the information and the more I write about it, the easier it is for me to understand personally. And then from that point is why I like to troubleshoot as well, because if I can understand other people's problems, well, now I'm that much closer to understanding really the underlying language and the underlying compiler, everything that goes with it. So yeah, I mean, where I'd like to be, I want to be a Reach professional, whatever that looks like, right?
Heck yeah.
I love that.
I'm all for that.
We are getting close to 40 minutes, so I'd like to maybe wrap it up with one more question, JP, if you have one, and then we'll do outros.
Right on. Go ahead. Do you have a question, Steph, that you want to fire off?
I have like silly questions I could ask.
Okay.
Do it.
Okay, I'm gonna ask like 3 silly questions.
Okay, fire away.
1, what's your favorite color?
Purple. I'm a purple guy.
No way, me too. That's so cool. Okay. 2 is when you were growing up, what did you think you wanted to be when you were an adult?
I always wanted to be a professional baseball player.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I played a lot of baseball when I was younger, and it was so cool to have the camaraderie with your team. And like, I went to a lot of major league ball games and just to kind of sit in the outfield and like, on game day, it was this whole experience. I was like, I want to be a major league ball player, right? And then, reality hits. I'm like 5'9", and I don't throw that hard. I don't hit that well. So after that, it just was like, I'm going to go to college and figure out what I want to do, and it wasn't until really I found like the blockchain niche that I was like, hey, this is what I want to do. I'd been in and out of a lot of other work before I got here. I had somebody the other day ask me, well, what does Nick want to do when he grows up? Well, I've already been through a whole career and a whole sort of life cycle there. This is like step 2. So I like to think I'm sort of grown up, as much as whatever that means. But yeah, I think, it's been so interesting to reinvent myself in a passion that I absolutely love. And now, it's about blockchain development, right? I'm not going to be a baseball player that come and went, and now I'm going to be a blockchain developer.
Cool.
That's awesome. And my final question is, for any new developer coming into the space, maybe a new one joining the bootcamp or any bounty hack, what advice do you have for them before getting started?
Read. There is so much information out there that you can read and get a good base level understanding, but beyond that, engagement. Be vocal. Go into the Discord channel, ask questions you have, introduce yourself, talk to people, make connections. A lot of developers, I feel like, are introverts. We love to stay behind our screens, and we don't like to necessarily talk to anybody. But it is such a welcoming community, especially in blockchain development, in the Reach community specifically, of people who want to learn. And the people who know or have learned, they're further along that path than maybe you might be. They love to help you learn. Like, because there's so much excitement, it's the same reason why I like doing blockchain education, because everybody there is so excited to learn. So don't be afraid to like get outside your comfort zone and just talk to people and ask any of the questions you have, make those connections. But that for me is the number one thing, I think, engagement, really. Yeah.
Awesome. I agree.
I love it.
Yeah.
So say hello to Nick Stanford. He's in the Discord.
Yeah, say hello to me. I'm in the Discord. I talk all the time. If not, I'm just like hanging out waiting for you to say something so I can respond to it.
I love that. As we close this off, I'd love for you to also share with us where we can find you, whether it be social media platforms and things of that sort. How can one get a hold of you, Nick?
Twitter is probably the number one after Discord. I mean, if you're not in the Discord, which I'm all over that thing, I'm also all over Twitter. I drop my Medium articles on Twitter, but at Nick Stanford 16, you'll find me there, and you'll find all my other links there too. So yeah, it's been awesome talking with you guys. I really can't stress enough how cool it's been to get in with you guys as a Reach team, and like the camaraderie you all have already, and just to like feel part of that. You guys are just great.
It's great to have you here. Yeah, thanks for talking to us.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Hope you have a great rest of your day. And I'm going to take you off the screen real quick, but stay with us.
Okay.
All right. And there you have it. That was Nick Stanford. I quite enjoyed that conversation.
I enjoyed it. I loved it. Yeah. We'll have to have him again in a month when he can drop that alpha.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Or we'll be releasing this by that time, and maybe we'll be able to put some boxes on the screen.
Connect here, there.
Well, thank you all for watching. We really appreciate you taking the time. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If you just want to get to know us a little bit better, find us on Twitter, message us on Discord, and we're here for you. We want to learn from you, and we want to provide you with more information as well. So if there's things that you want to hear about, let us know. Subscribe, like, share with your friends, share the alpha, spread the love.
Crypto never sleeps. Let's go.
Really doesn't. And you know how to find us. So have a great rest of your day, and thanks for watching.